So, is it the Gulf of Mexico or the Gulf of America? I'm going to tell you that it's going to be actually, it's neither. This is just a prime example of how it's always been Europeans and taking over land and then conquering it and then renaming it, and then another European coming doing exactly the same thing over and over again. But what's damning to you guys is your Bible tells you that you're not allowed to come and take over other people's lands. That was actually a covenant made after the flood between Noah and his sons. Okay? The book of Jubilees, it talks about that. How, you know, the sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, had a covenant with Noah and the Most High. And that covenant was if you came and you took over someone else's land, that pretty much you damn and curse your children. And just because the Europeans have hidden these books and said that we don't accept these books doesn't mean that your children won't be getting cursed. And as you can see, there's these videos that are coming out talking about people talking about the American dream is dead. Well, the American dream was actually the nightmare for the true people of the Most High. Your dream was to be able to come over here, rape, rob, murder, and steal, take all of our resources, divvy them up between Psalms 83, and live deliciously. And now, yes, that dream is over with. But when you see now all of a sudden Trump wanting to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, and all of a sudden there was this video that was shared with me talking about how, oh, it was such a great thing and how witty the president was by showing just this one picture and just, pretty much acting like, she put Trump in her place by showing the picture like this. So she showed a picture like this and let you know why it's the Gulf of Mexico. But, it's the Gulf of Mexico because Mexico used to own all these lands, right, for a time. Now, again, that's just more Europeans, more so-called white people, coming over, stealing lands, and then putting a flag down and claiming it for themselves. But when they did that, they just damned their own children. They put curses on their own children. And they think that they did something. Oh, it's the Gulf of Mexico because, it was Mexico for a time. Well, again, that's just what's the difference between Trump now saying that it's the Gulf of America? It's the same thing. It's white people coming over and renaming things. Much as you guys think that Spanish is somehow native to Mexico when it's actually another white European language, it's no different than Trump just switching it from the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Now, you know that the president of Mexico just told you that the Mexicans that you see today were not the original people that Columbus encountered. So therefore, we know that it was not called the Gulf of Mexico before 1492. So you want to bust out some map from 1600s or whatever else and act like you've done something. What was the place called before you got here? So you guys conveniently went and burned all the books, right? So that we would know. But the Most High knows. The Most High knows that this was not the Gulf of Mexico. But this is just one group of Europeans, going against another group of Europeans between the Gulf of Mexico and the Gulf of America. Neither is true. All of this is going back to the original people, the ones that the Most High had given it to. So let's listen, because the president of Mexico knows that there was people here, so-called Negroes, so-called black people, that were here before Columbus. So therefore, even the Gulf of Mexico would not be accurate. So let's listen to part of this video once again. So again, the president of Mexico knows that it wasn't the Gulf of Mexico before 1492.
Teach them and show them how they can rule autonomously and set up their own rulership over their own people, because there's a lot of indigenous different tribes within Mexico. The second part of that edict that was signed into the Mexican Constitution recognizes, and hear me out here, Afro-Indigenous. So, and that basically states that written into the Mexican Constitution, it is now law that the Afro-Indigenous are recognized as full citizens of Mexico and are afforded their indigenous status. And then she went on to state that Mexico recognizes that Afro-Indigenous people were on this continent hundreds of years before the Spaniards stepped 1 foot on the soil. It completely changes the narrative of what we've been taught. It completely changes the idea that Columbus was here and there's just Mexicans. It flips it right on its head. Everything is out the door. This is a very intelligent woman. And what she has stated are what people on different social media platforms have been saying for years. Black man was already here. The black man was already here.
So even when she's talking about the Gulf of Mexico and how that was here before, so that therefore pretty much negates everything that Trump's trying to do, then we're going to negate everything that you're talking about with the Gulf of Mexico, because that's not what it was called. That wasn't the lands, that was the name of the lands that the Most High had given it. Right? Wasn't it like Tamari before, you guys got here? But you guys, just because you went and burned all the records, we had names for all these different places. You burned them, and then you named everything what you wanted to name it. But that doesn't take away the fact that the Most High had already named these lands. We already had names. We already had names for the bodies of water. We already had names for all these things. But just because you've hidden it, it doesn't mean that it's now null and void, right? So when you say Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of California or Gulf of America, it's neither. It's going to go back to the original lands that the Most High had ordained, not the names that the Europeans have given it once they got here. See, this is why you've opened up your children to curses, because you've stolen land, you've stolen resources, you've given it to all of Psalms 83 in order for them to be able to go down with the ship with you. Misery loves company. And that's why you always told them that pretty much they're not going to be able to bear good fruits, because as soon as they went and just like in Maccabees, how our people went and made covenants with the Greeks. All the other nations have made covenants with the Roman Empire and the revived Roman Empire. And what did they tell you? The main thing was you do not interact with black people, so-called Negroes. You do not work with them. You hate them just like we did. And with that hate, that is why you cannot bear good fruit. That's why you can't say that you are, you have morals and you have a moral fiber and you have, you do all the jobs, you do all the stuff that that no one else wants to do, and we have good family values. If your family values is your religion, and your religion is steeped in racism against our people, then how can you say you have good values when you try to find, and when the Mexican president pulls up this picture from what Mexico used to be, a long time ago, and you don't think about the fact that there were people here before. The president just told you herself that so-called Negroes were here before. And it takes you down to 2020 before you even recognize Afro-Indigenous people. You don't give them rights until 2024, 2025. You don't recognize that. How is that having family values when you ignore a whole race of people, and you belittle them, and you make it seem as if they are not even people, and you don't even recognize them as being equal people until 2025? But you're trying to say that you have moral values when your churches that you are forced to go and you are forced to go and frequent every week or more than you're told to go and give them money. You're told to go listen to what the priests say, but the priests are raping children and you say nothing about it. Those, again, you're trying to say those are good moral, family values. You see, this is why you cannot bear good fruit, because your whole society is based off of racism against our people. Everyone has been racist against our people, and now you want to ignore all the racism and say, oh, I get it now. Let's all work together. Let's all come together. Those opportunities are over with. Only thing you can do is cleave to the Most High's chosen people. And that doesn't mean come and teach us anything, because you're not going to be able to do any of that. It's called knowing your place, being in order, and cleaving to the Most High's chosen people. So again, it is no such thing as a Gulf of California, Gulf of Mexico, or Gulf of America. It is going back to the Most High's chosen people. And everything is going back to the original people. Shalom.